The town of Averia was older than memory. It clung to the cliffs like a white shell, its narrow streets winding between olive groves and crumbling walls. The sea murmured below, a blue mirror where ships came and went like fleeting thoughts. In the evenings, when the sun sank into the water, the town glowed with the color of honeyed wine, and the bells of the old monastery echoed through the air like fading prayers. It was a place where scents ruled everything. The fragrance of crushed basil from kitchens, smoke from olive wood fires, the salt of the sea, the musk of sun-warmed stone. The people of Averia often said you could tell a person's soul by the way they smelled. Some carried the sweetness of devotion, others the bitterness of secrets. Among these narrow streets stood a modest apothecary's shop, its wooden door carved with vines and small symbols of alchemy. Inside, shelves groaned beneath bottles of oil, jars of petals, dried herbs, and blocks of amber resin that caught the light like trapped sunsets. Here, Luca Ferraro spent his days. He had come to the shop as a boy of 12, the orphan son of a fisherman lost to the sea. Maestro Salvetti, the old apothecary, had taken him in, not out of pity, but because the boy possessed what he called a nose made by angels and cursed by curiosity. Luca could identify the faintest scent carried on a breeze, saffron hidden in a stew, lilac in a stranger's hair, or the copper tang of a coming storm. The maestro taught him to distill oils, crush resins, and record every ratio in a thick leather ledger that smelled of ink and age. But Luca's favorite hour was always dusk, when Salvetti allowed him to open the window shutters. As the evening air flooded in, he would breathe the mingled perfume of sea and city and imagine he could separate them, one scent at a time, sorrow, joy, love, loss, until memory itself had a smell. Salvetti was a man of order, precise and cautious. He had spent 40 years mastering the apothecary's craft and spoke often of balance, of how too much rose oil could sicken the mind, how the wrong resin could turn sweetness to decay. His perfumes were famous across the coast. Lovers, merchants, and even monks visited to buy his vials, each said to capture a feeling, rain after prayer, garden before farewell, smoke of first desire. Yet Salvetti had rules. Perfume, he said, was to evoke, never to conjure. It must suggest memory, not restore it. The past was sacred and dangerous. To breathe it too deeply was to lose oneself in it. Luca listened, but a spark burned quietly inside him. He longed to find the scent that could awaken forgotten memories, not merely remind them. He dreamed of a perfume that could make people dream the past itself. When the maestro slept, Luca began his secret work. By candlelight he mixed ingredients too humble for the master's use: brittle petals of mimosa, husks of citrus, oil from wild lavender that grew between the stones of the cliffs. He wrote meticulous notes in his hidden journal, strange poetic descriptions like smell of mother's lullaby, first tear of childhood fear, and sea before the loss. Night after night he experimented, distilling and discarding, until his small room filled with ghosts of scent, fragments of half-remembered summers. Fleeting whispers of love, moments that seemed alive for an instant and then dissolved. Sometimes, after hours of work, Luca would catch a scent so piercing it made his heart ache. But when dawn came, it would fade, leaving only emptiness, as if the air itself mourned what it had carried. Then, one night, when the moon hung thin as a thread, a stranger came to Averia. She arrived barefoot, her cloak the color of ashes, carrying nothing but a small wooden box bound with red cord. She asked for Maestro Salvetti, but the old man had gone to bed early, and so Luca, still awake in the lamplight, opened the door. Her name was Alara, her eyes were pale gray, almost colorless, yet deep as the sea before a storm. She smelled faintly of rain-soaked earth, the scent of grief. "I am told your master can make a perfume that brings peace to the heart," she said softly. Luca nodded, unsure what to answer. "And what do you seek peace from, signora?" She hesitated. "From forgetting." I cannot remember my child's face. I fear that if I sleep another night, I will lose him forever. Something inside Luca stirred, pity, wonder, and the old hunger for discovery. Perhaps, he said quietly, I can make something for you. For 3 nights he worked in secret. He chose mimosa for laughter, orris root for sorrow, myrrh for faith, and a single drop of sea amber, the resin said to hold the memory of the ocean itself. He blended them in copper stills, warmed by a candle's trembling flame, until the air shimmered with an almost musical sweetness. He called it reveria. When Alara returned, he offered her the vial, no larger than a tear. She lifted it to her lips, inhaled, and closed her eyes. A stillness filled the room. Her breathing slowed, then deepened, as though she were falling inward. When she opened her eyes again, tears streamed silently down her face. I remember, she whispered. The sound of his laughter. The shells he gathered for me. His hands, oh, I remember. Her joy was radiant, yet her gaze seemed distant, as if part of her were already elsewhere. She pressed the vial into Luca's palm. Thank you, she said, smiling faintly. Now I can sleep. She left before dawn, leaving behind only her red-bound box. Inside lay a lock of golden hair and a child's seashell, still carrying the faint scent of reveria. When Salvetti awoke and found the shop heavy with fragrance, he grew pale. What have you done? He demanded. I made her remember, Luca said softly. She dreamed her lost memories. The old man trembled. You have stepped into forbidden work. There was once a perfume, long ago, the perfume of remembrance. It opened the gate between now and what was. Those who smelled it saw their pasts whole again. But they forgot the present. Memory is not a garden to be walked twice. Luca's voice wavered. But I gave her peace. Salvetti's reply came like a whisper of fear. Peace is not always mercy. Days passed, and word spread of Alara's miracle. More people came, mothers who had buried children. Widows clutching rings, old men trembling with names they could no longer recall. They begged Luca for a drop of reveria. At first, he refused. Then their grief broke him. He told himself he was healing them, giving them one night of solace, one dream of love. He made the perfume again, and again, but reveria was no longer his to command. Its scent grew stronger each time, richer, more alive. It crept beyond the bottles, into the walls, the cobblestones, the sea breeze. And soon the whole town began to dream. The baker forgot his bread and stood before his empty oven, whispering to a wife dead 10 years. The fishermen cast their nets into the air, calling out to fathers they believed stood upon the waves. Children wandered the streets murmuring lullabies they had never been taught. Bavaria became a city of dreamers, half awake, half elsewhere. Salvetti, desperate, smashed the stills and hurled the remaining vials into the sea. Do you see what you've done? He cried. You've loosened the knot that binds time. You've given the dead a voice, and now they will not be silent. But the scent clung to everything. It rose from the stones, from the pages of books, from Luca's own skin. He could not destroy it. It called to him, the fragrance of longing, of the sea, of every face he himself had lost. One night, Luca followed it to the cliffs. There stood Alara, barefoot again, her eyes calm as glass. Do you remember now? He asked. I remember everything, she whispered. And nothing of this world. Then she smiled, that same distant, peaceful smile, and stepped forward into the sea. The tide carried her away like a breath exhaled from eternity. When he returned to the apothecary, Luca set fire to the shop. Flames devoured the shelves, the herbs, the old ledgers, the very air itself thick with scent. Salvetti tried to save his books but was lost within the burning smoke that smelled of roses, amber, and memory. By dawn, nothing remained but blackened stone, and Luca was gone. Years passed. Averia faded, swallowed by time and silence, but fishermen who sailed near its ruins said that sometimes, when the wind blew from the west, they smelled something strange, a perfume so soft and sorrowful that it made their eyes fill with tears. Some dreamed that night of people they had lost. Others woke with names on their lips they could not recall in daylight. One traveler claimed to have seen a figure upon the cliffs, a young man with a lantern, mixing invisible liquids into the wind. He said the boy's hands trembled as if holding something fragile, something living. He never spoke, only listened to the sea, and when the traveler looked away for a moment and then back again, the boy was gone, and the air smelled faintly, heartbreakingly, of love that refused to die.